Hello, New Garden students. I hope this video finds you well. Happy Wednesday. It's good to be back with you via YouTube. If you don't already know, we're going to be on Zoom on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. You should totally join us. It's going to be fun. We'll chat about the lesson for this week, hang out, and maybe even play a game. You got to come and find out. The link for that is at newgarden.church/chat. So, this is week 2 of our series, Love, Hate. And I want to ask you, have any of your friends ever told you something that was kind of awkward, but in the long run, you were grateful for it? Like, maybe you had something in your teeth and they told you about it and it was kind of awkward, but it saved you some embarrassment down the road, right? Or maybe your fly was down and they're like, hey, you should really know this. Or you had toilet paper stuck to your shoe. It's an awkward conversation to have, but in the long run, you're grateful that your friend got over the awkwardness and saved you some trouble for down the road. Well, let's think about that from the other way now. Has there ever been a situation that you know you need to talk to someone about, but you know it's going to be a hard conversation? And maybe it's something a little bit more serious than just having food stuck in your teeth. Maybe your friend is in a relationship that you don't think is healthy for them. Maybe they have gotten involved in a group of friends and have started making some decisions that are questionable. There are a lot of options for these kind of things, right? Some sort of situation that someone you love is in that you feel like you might need to say something about, but you don't know how to go about it. Usually, that just leads to us avoiding the conversation altogether, right? We think that is their business, it's their choice to make bad decisions, and I'm going to stay over here, mind my own business, stay in my lane. Because we don't want to make that person mad. We don't want to feel awkward. It's horribly uncomfortable to have a conversation like that. You might be nervous that your friend won't want to be friends with you anymore. And maybe even it's something that you have done before and you don't feel like you have the right to call them out on it. So there are a lot of reasons that we avoid having conversations that are difficult, even if we think it's the best thing for another person, right? We all know what this feels like. And last week we talked about letting love be what we're all about and not hate. And we know that that is a good thing, to let love be what we're about, but it doesn't make it any easier to think about it, right? Like, if we know that's what we should all be all about, it doesn't mean it's easy to have hard conversations. And Paul talks about this in his letter to the Galatians. So he's writing to the church in Galatia, which is now modern day Turkey. And this is what he says in Galatians 6:1. Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path, and be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself. Okay, so Paul is saying that not only is it good and loving to have a conversation with that person, but he takes it a step further, saying that you can help that person out of the harmful thing that is in their life by entering into that with them. But he goes on to say, be careful not to fall into the same temptation yourself. So what Paul is not saying, hear me say this, he is not saying that other people's choices are your responsibility, or that it is your job to keep everybody on the straight and narrow, or that if they make a bad choice, it's on you, okay? But he is saying that we, as people who are godly and are trying to be loving, can be helpful to the people that we love by speaking these things and entering into these situations with them. But with humility and gentleness, right? Not just speaking harshly or saying things just to say them, but coming to a person with humility and gentleness in the way that we would want to be approached ourselves. So he goes on to say in verse 2, share each other's burdens, and in this way obey the law of Christ. So how are we helping these people get back on track? Paul says the way to do that is to share their burdens with them, to carry their burdens with them. People who are weightlifters have a person who is there with them called a spotter, right? And they're there just in case the weight that they're lifting gets too heavy for them to lift. And so when that happens, the spotter steps in and helps them to lift the weight, or to take it from them, even to protect that person, right? And Paul is saying that that is what we get to do with people, to be next to them. And when something is too much for one person to handle, to step in and help them carry that burden. We talked about that, I think it was last week, when we were saying that we were made for a relationship with each other. We weren't meant to do this on our own. So we're not just pointing fingers when we're having hard conversations, right? We're sharing in burdens with people. We're not saying, I have noticed you doing something and I don't think it's good. I don't think it's healthy for you and you need to check yourself. No. Paul is saying that we come to those people lovingly with kind words, humbly, and help them to carry their burdens. And that might sound terrifying to you. That is something that scares me a lot, to have a hard conversation with someone that they probably won't like. It's an intimidating thing to do. But I think that makes it all the more important that Paul is saying this to people that he loves, saying that this is a good thing. It's a loving thing to do. Now, you might be on the opposite end of that. I know some of you are very quick to speak your mind, and it might be easy for you to say things that you don't think people will like. I'm not like that, but we both have to remember that this is a loving thing to do. It's important to do it, but we have to do it in a way that's loving. So we've got to meet in the middle somewhere on this spectrum of being afraid to say something hard and being very willing to say something hard, and meet in the middle and saying something constructive in a loving and caring way. So the most important thing to remember is to ask ourselves the question, am I showing love in how I'm treating this person? And one way we can do that is by treating that person as we would want to be treated. We've all gone through times in our lives, maybe where someone else has done this for us and called us out and said, this is something I've noticed going on and I don't think it's good for you, and I'm going to help you. Like, I want to keep you accountable. I want to be with you in this. So if we're entering into these hard conversations with someone, consider it like you're talking to yourself. How would you want someone to approach you in doing all of this? So in all of it, let love be your filter. That is the main point in all of this. We know about Instagram filters and Snapchat filters and all that kind of stuff, where you pull it up on your phone and everything you look at through your phone, whether it's you or something else, has that filter on it. What if that filter was love? What if everything we looked at, the people that we talked to, we filtered our words, our actions, our intentions through the filter of love? So let love be your filter in your involvement. Consider, before having a hard conversation with someone, what is the amount of involved you need to be? What is the most loving thing to do? How is it appropriate for you to handle this situation? Because it may be better for an adult to have a conversation with someone, or there are all different sorts of situations. So first, consider your involvement through the filter of love. Second, let love be the filter for your words, as though you were speaking to yourself, right? How would you want someone to talk to you? Think about the way that you word things. We probably all know that 9 times out of 10, it's how you say something more than what you're saying. Like if you were responding in a sassy way to your parents, you could be saying something super normal, but it could start a whole thing if you say it with a sassy tone, right? That's true. So it is how you say it, not always what you have to say. So let love be the filter for your words, what you say and how you say it. And finally, let love be the filter for your actions and your reactions. You don't want to react too quickly to anybody and fly off the handle, but asking yourself, how would I want someone to live out their love if I were in this situation? It's really important to keep that in mind, to treat the other person how you would want to be treated. So let's be people who let love be our filter. So that is the idea that we are thinking about this week for Love Hate Week 2. Please jump on Zoom on Wednesday night at 7, and we're going to talk more about what that looks like in our own lives, and how we can let love be the filter. See you at 7.
Good job.
Thanks.
It wasn't recording.
Are you serious?
No.